Welcome to Walking Life Together. Today we will walk life with Connie. She is a Christian, a wife, a mom of two lovely children, and they are expecting another one. She is a doctor by profession. So, Connie, during our last conversation, you mentioned about when you got married, you decided to focus on your careers, and then somehow you delayed the process of childbearing. So, do you mind sharing your challenges and lessons from childbearing?
Yes, Joey. Thanks for having me. So as a background, my husband's name is Rupert. Rupert and I were married in 2004, just right after we graduated from medical school. And at that point, we were really focused on advancing our career. We were just starting out because we just graduated from med school. So after we got married siguro mga 2 weeks after the last day of graduation. So from 2004 until 2006, we were focused on getting into a residency, and that's how we were able to secure our residency training here in the US. Both of us are we're internal medicine residents, and that was a 3-year residency program. So it was hard training. We would have to be on call every 3 days for certain rotations, have to rotate in different clinical departments. So at that point, there wasn't really a lot of focus for us to start our family. It was just the two of us, and it was working for us during that time. But of course, as we grew older, so we were maybe in our mid-20s up to late 20s during our training. So towards the end of the training, we started thinking, well, maybe it's time to start a family. So that's the irony of it, is that we're both of us are planners, and we like it when our plans happen our way and are on our timing. But that didn't happen when we were planning to have a baby. So we graduated from internal medicine residency in 2009, and then from maybe we started trying 2008, didn't have our first child until 2012. So that was 4 years of waiting. The main challenges for me and for us at that time was the question, what if I can't conceive? Okay, so we were already faced with that dilemma, like the notion that I won't be able to conceive. Plus there was that feeling of regret that maybe we waited too long. Maybe we shouldn't have focused on our career first and focused on something else. But of course, at that time, that was all just hindsight. At that time, when we were trying for about a year or so, trying to have a child, and it wasn't happening, we decided to go to a reproductive health specialist here, and then that's when we started entertaining the idea of maybe doing artificial reproductive methods. Since we were both in the medical field, we were a bit familiar about what the process would entail. But of course, the details of that, we weren't aware. So that's how we got into a local reproductive medicine facility here in Seattle. And then our journey from there started. So there were a lot of emotional challenges. Just feeling inadequate because you see all your friends, starting their own families, whether they started earlier than us or about the same time as us. It was painful to see, other families getting started and flourishing. Plus, when Rupert and I decided to start the artificial methods, I was given a lot of hormonal medication. So there were physical challenges as well related to that. So the logistics of from here going to Seattle to do the artificial intrauterine insemination and then eventually the IVF, it was a hard time. So plus, in addition to the mental challenges and the emotional challenges, plus the physical challenges, there's also an overarching like moral question over that as well. We consulted our pastor, like what would be the best way to conceive a child, and at the same time glorify God in the process, right? So we know that in order to increase your chances of having of conceiving a child or having successful fertilization during that time, the science dictates at that time that you have to fertilize a lot of eggs in order to increase your chance of conceiving. But both of us we didn't feel right about that, because if you end up fertilizing 8 eggs and they're all in storage, and that's life, it's hard kind of settle in our minds that there will be 8 fertilized eggs, 8 lives that will be in the bank, and you don't know if they will be we probably don't want 8 children to nurture. So there was that kind of moral dilemma as well. So the good thing was that we found our OB gynecologist in that reproductive medicine facility that we had. She understood what our dilemma was. And so we followed a different type of protocol. Instead of fertilizing many eggs, we just decided to fertilize 3 eggs, because those 3 eggs statistically would probably give me the best chance of carrying through the pregnancy without having the moral dilemma of having other fertilized eggs in the bank. So that's what we did. We were hoping that the fertilized eggs will take. So but after the IVF, about siguro a few days after, they called me and Rupert, and they said that none of the fertilized eggs survived. So that was another blow, because we were banking so much on this. I mean, they explained to us how they were going to do it. It seemed like a fail-safe, foolproof procedure, but still, it didn't happen. So those were the challenges that we had initially when we were trying to conceive for the first time. So in terms of the lessons that I've learned during that time, there were a lot. Probably that one of the main things is that God is ultimately sovereign. Like, he's sovereign over everything. He's sovereign even over science, as much as we want to deny it. He's sovereign even over that. It was also good for me to know that I was not the only one undergoing the same challenges. There were many women who were undergoing or have undergone, the same challenges. Some were successful, some were not, and it was just good to know that I was not alone in that journey. And I also learned that it's very important to have your husband be on the same page as you, especially in terms of how you view marriage and family, and how marriage and family should flourish under the sovereignty of God. That's very important. And I think out of all the things that I've learned is that just submitting our marriage and our family to the Lord, that I think that carried us through all the hardship. And then so I guess piggybacking on the idea that God is ultimately sovereign, we were at the point at that time thinking that even if the Lord decided not to open my womb to bear children, there's peace in knowing that He is in charge, regardless of what was going to happen. I think I told you before that when we decided to do the IVF, we were we already had a plan B. So if it doesn't work, then we have plans on adopting kids. That was already like part of our plan. So by God's grace, a month after we failed the IVF, I got pregnant naturally. And that was truly a blessing. That was 2011 when that happened, because my firstborn was born in 2012. So yeah. So yep. So those are the lessons that I've learned during that time.
The first Can you describe your feelings when you were going through that season?
So primarily a lot of uncertainty. That was the main thing.